Well, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing and whoever you're lucky enough to be doing it too, I am Bushka on Blitz and we're back for a good chat about a wee friend of mine, the Indien, the German Tier 8 medium tank on the second German medium line. It's competing with the Panther 2 for the title of top dog in the German medium lines at Tier 8. And I've got to tell you, it's not much of a competition. The Indien's kicking its ass. Just quietly. It's been a huge week. It's been a massive week, and it's the end of an even bigger month. Our first month of a video every single day, and it's been extremely successful. Lots and lots of people coming to the channel. We're picking up over 1,000 subscribers a month. Lots and lots of stuff going on. Huge patron events. It's wonderful. So if you haven't already, please check out bushkaonblitz.com and say good day. Now, back to the Indien. What's so good about this tank? Well, it's got a pretty good gun. I've just done 2 reviews recently on the tank that I'm currently blowing up, the STA-1, and you're going to see I'm going to go to the left of the STA-1 here and use his body to shield me from any Rudy issues that I'm going to have. And the Centurion one, both Tier 8 mediums and both in dire need of a review, which I did. Now, the STA-1's gun is actually very, very similar to the Indien. In fact, the STA-1 is a lot like the Indien without the trollish armour. The Indien has a very small pinhead, but it's very comparable gun-wise to the STA-1. It doesn't have as good a aim time. It's got a slightly better dispersion, but very, very comparable. And I gave the STA-1 a bit of a bath. I didn't give it a bath. It was about a 6 out of 10 tank for me. The Centurion 1 was more or less a 7 out of 10 kind of tank. It has a better gun than either of them. Still very low alpha on all 3 tanks. 225 for the STA-1, 190 for the Cent, and 225 for the Indien. But the Cent has a reliable gun mantlet, or at least a semi-reliable gun mantlet, and an incredible 1.9 second aim time to go with a .33 dispersion weapon. And extraordinarily good penetration numbers. 225 millimeters of pen, 226 millimeters of pen, actually, I think, on your Cent's AP rounds. So no worries in the pen stakes. What you struggle with on the Indien is not much. What you're amazing at is not much. Look, both the Cent, the Indien, and the STA-1, they all have 10 degrees of gun depression. They've all got excellent gun depression stats, so you can manufacture shots on hills and you can do all kinds of things. What the Indien has is a fairly sturdy trollish armour profile to go with an exceptionally small turret. It's got a bit of a pinhead, and it makes it quite tough to hit. You can side scrape in this tank. You can bounce shots occasionally by wiggling around because it does have all kinds of odds and sods in its angles, and you're more than mobile enough to get around the traps. Very typically German, 50 kilometers an hour is the top speed, 34 degrees of traverse and 36 degrees of turret traverse. Make it very, very mobile, but not exceptionally mobile. And the big negative on the tank is the aim time. You can see 2.9 seconds of aim time. That is a legit, for real aim time. And 0.34 dispersion, while it's a good number, is not enough to overcome what is, at times, a debilitating aim time. It's one of the lesser accomplished snapshot artists that I've come across. And that's all about the aim time. You'll have a lot of times that the gun will troll you, because brilliant if you've got it zoomed in and you're able to snipe quietly, but when you're on the move and you're trying to take quick shots at a dead stop from going 50 kilometers an hour and down, then yeah, the aim time is not going to be very, very friendly to you. The penetration numbers are fine. You have 225 millimeters of penetration on your AP rounds, and a chickadee-boo 259 on your APCR, your Premo. Now what I want to show you here is a little bit of a look at why the tank is actually quite versatile and strong. You can side scrape this tank, which is becoming really necessary in the current meta of Tier 8. Tier 8 is definitely picking up a bit of notoriety around the traps for a lot of premium tanks and a lot of big, heavy premium tanks, because in the most part, credit grinding tanks are heavies at tier 8. You have the IS-6, you have the T-34, you have the Luva. The Super Pershing is obviously a medium by name, but is more of a heavium by nature. And when you get in situations where the defender and co are around, you really have to be able to take a shot or at least side scrape them. And you can see here, the tank's nimble enough and mobile enough to get in and out, use the little bit of spaced armour on its flank and the tracks to actually put shots into these two heavies ahead of me and do it quite comfortably. So that's something that really does add to your bow in a meta that is becoming increasingly heavy dominated, because credits at the moment in the game are at a premium with provisions and stuff, no pun intended, coming. And watch this. That's what I'm talking about with that 2.9 legit aim second. It really is tough. When you come to a dead stop after going along at full pelt and want to put a shot in, the reticle takes just a little bit longer than you're used to with a medium to come down, and that really makes life a little bit tough. But for all that, you can see here in this game, there is a Carnarvon, a Centurion, two IS-6s, two AT-15As on the other team. We have an IS-6 and a T-34 on our team. A lot of TDs, a lot of heavy tanks, and it leads to situations where there's a big hit point pool to drill through. And it's also leading through to a really odd thing. In the past 3 medium reviews of the STA1, the Centurion one, and the Indian, I've got masteries in those tanks at quite low numbers. Low to mid 3k range will get you a mastery in those tanks at the present, which is quite odd. Prior to the 1-1 matchmaking patch, +1 -1 matchmaking patch, this wasn't the case at all. You had to do a lot better in these tanks to get it done. And with the move towards this heavy domination, you're seeing that a lot of people aren't driving these tanks as often as they used to, and they're in fact getting drilled a lot more because it's harder to penetrate those heavy tanks in general when you're same team matchups, and it's also, they've got a bigger alpha. They can be a lot nastier, and when they decide to hit point trade and just drive up on you, there's not a lot you can do to minimize that, apart from being good at side scraping, good at wiggling and doing all those kind of things. It's also, in my opinion, lowered the level of the gameplay at 8 just a touch, but that's neither here nor there. This is a mastery game, by the way, and it's quite a low mastery. We drive it fairly well, and we get our kills, and we do the business. And we've got ourselves in a really good spot, and we're utilising the good parts of the tank. Agile, 10 degrees of gun depression, very nice high rate of fire, good damage per minute numbers, and when you let the gun fully aim up, you should be able to hit things, and you don't have to blow a whole lot of APCR when you're doing that. But for all that, it's still a very low number on a mastery game. And you can see the tank moves very sinuously. It's quite strong, but I mean, you're fighting IS-6s. Look at that, that's 2 IS-6s. You can get flank shots in them, but you're going to get the occasional bounce, and when they face up to you, you quite often have to switch to APCR, and that can make life a little bit tougher on the credits than you'd like. But for all that, we're still pounding out the damage, and we're pretty much pounding it out on the reload. We're being ignored, which, as most of the experienced players would know, can happen when they start tunneling on one particular target and they're missing out on the big dog that is on their left here, and I am having an absolute field day. Now, this Carnarvon does the right thing. That's a ricochet. Lower aim time, I'd like to think that would go in. This Carnarvon does the right thing. He finally pushes up on the flank, which is always going to be tough. And this is what I'm talking about when heavies just walk up on you and they want to hit point trade. And I've had a look at the mini-map. They're still focusing down the 2 heavies on my left, on the guys under me. So I'm trying to get under the Carnarvon's gun, make him lose his shots on this hill, and use this trollish armour profile to just basically bounce a heap of stuff. And that's what we're going to do. It's one of the best things about this tank. It's really good like that. If you can get your pinhead right on top of their gun muzzle, you can quite often get bounces, and he's going to get trapped there, just looking a little bit back, and gets done. And that's a pretty common occurrence on a tank like the Carnarvon. The IS-6 or something might be a little bit tougher, but for the most part, the Indian can handle itself in a brawl. I like the tank. I'd recommend it. I think it is probably the second best medium at tier 8. You see only 3,416 there with 3 kills for 1250. That's a very low mastery. 1250 is quite a low mastery in most tanks. A bit disappointing really, because I think the tank deserves to be driven more. I think it certainly deserves to be driven at a higher level than that to get yourself a mastery badge. So if I had to rate the tier 8 mediums, I'd probably go the T44 as my favourite, followed by the Indian, and then the Cent and the STA1. The Cent's really opened my eyes. I think it's close to the Indian, actually. Very similar tanks for my money. Gun depression, mobility is better on the Indian. Both able to sidescrape a touch. Cent probably a little bit better than the Indian. So they're what, neck and neck. I'd give the Indian a 7.5 out of 10, and I'd probably give the T44 an 8. And that's just subjective stuff on my part, because the 44 can actually brawl better than those tanks, and it's able to mitigate incoming damage at a better rate than those tanks, because you can do that old Russian super angled upper glacis that's very pointy off a very, very narrow berm or hill, and put shots in while still bouncing, even the heaviest of tanks. So I'm Bushka on Blitz. I hope you've enjoyed that and got a little bit of love out of it. And if you think of going up the line, be aware that aim time is legit. It is for real. It is a big aim time. And while the rest of it is all very lovely and bubbly and beer and Skittles, the aim time can really do you in. And one final little point, I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but when you've got a 225 alpha tank, you've got a tank that doesn't have a big alpha, it can often not have the stopping power, and by that I mean the fear factor that you get when you're facing a tank that has 400 odd alpha, like an IS-3 or an IS-3 Defender. And that means you will get people pushing up on you who are less experienced in the game and don't feel the sting. And even though you take out a whole buttload of their hit points, if they've got the heat in the pipe and they're going to let it go, they will let it go. And that's called hit point swapping. And that is something that happens a lot when you face big, heavy premiums at tier 8 and people who are maybe inexperienced drivers and don't really care that much about the consequences of their actions. They just want to go up and hit people. So you've got to be very wary of that and make sure you factor that into your gameplay style. I hope that's been helpful. I'm Bushka on Blitz. You're bloody lovely as always. Make sure to check out www.bushkaonblitz.com. And as always, if you'd like to subscribe and like the video, that would be pretty bloody nice. Stay safe on the battlefield, humans. Bye for now.